states signed the final act in October of last year. In other words, only Georgia remains as the only former Soviet republic which remains on the sidelines from the CSCE process. The final act of the Conference on Security and Cooperation in Europe was signed in 1975 by 33 European countries plus the United States and Canada. The goal of the movement was détente in relations between East and West. Less than a month ago, at the meeting of the foreign ministers of CSCE countries, a decision was made to accept the 10 remaining CIS republics as members. The issue of membership of the European republics was a formality, but the entrance of Kazakhstan and the 4 Central Asian republics was not without controversy. In the first place, because they are not in Europe, and in the second place, because there are reports that human rights are being violated in several republics. Finally, the ministers decided that the CSCE should support these republics in order to neutralize the influence of Turkey, Iran, and Pakistan, which do not hide their interest in Central Asia. After becoming unified at Maastricht, the 12 European countries are a new superpower on the level of the US and Japan, and they are now widening their sphere of influence into Asia. So Charles de Gaulle's words on the Europe from the Atlantic to the Urals are acquiring concrete meaning. In Commonwealth news today, republics of the CIS parliaments met today. They prepared 10 draft documents. The most controversial was one document which would create a Council of Supreme Soviet Speakers of CIS countries. The Military Council of the Black Sea Fleet and representatives of the Officer Corps today made a joint appeal to the rank-and-file soldiers. The fleet leadership expresses its loyalty to the CIS and appeals to all soldiers to remain loyal to their oath and their duty. In Kazan, a council has been formed to hold a referendum on the state status of the republic. The Crimean parliament met today. The main result was this: the deputies voted for secession of the Crimea from Ukraine. Our correspondent has the details. The Crimean Autonomous Socialist Republic will now simply be called the Republic of the Crimea. This decision was made today virtually without debate, but the next item on the agenda on a draft constitution from the Crimea will have to be discussed for several days. Before today's session, the deputies were met by picketers outside representing several political groups. Their demands are diverse: Crimea as part of Ukraine, as part of Russia, as an independent state. These various points of view were also discussed during the discussion on the draft constitution. The Mejlis Council of Crimean Tatars drew up its own draft constitution. The Constitutional Committee decided that this project needs further revision because it still must be determined how to delimit powers of the Republic and Ukraine. The deputies have only adopted the first article of the Constitution, in which it says that the Republic of the Crimea is a legal democratic state, thereby striking out the words autonomous and within the Ukraine. We continue the parliamentary chronicle of Commonwealth countries. After a break, the Supreme Soviet of the Kyrgyz Republic met today. These Kyrgyzian mothers came to Bishkek from Ursk region to ask for a pardon for their sons from the parliament. Their sons were convicted in the well-known ethnic conflicts here. A person with a full stomach is easily provoked to violence, they said. These other people are demanding division of state farms, once again along ethnic lines. Parliamentary Speaker Tursunbek Chingishov said that the national income here is down 5% since last year, so the government cannot maintain the minimum standard of living for the Republic. There are also management expenses in the Supreme Soviet. There is a petition drive to disperse the Supreme Soviet and create in its place a compact professional parliament. Today in Tashkent, the Kurultai, the Congress of Muslims of Kazakhstan and Central Asia, renewed its work. The collapse of the Soviet Union, the CIS, and the modern policies on the local level require reconsideration of the charter and mission of the Islamic institutions here. According to the Kurultai, the rebirth of spirituality is evident everywhere here, but new problems are arising. There is a new Muslim movement. The Islamic renewal party has become united, and these factions in their power struggle are willing to divide the spiritual leadership of the Republic. The Congress should resolve these issues which concern all Muslims. Today, the collapse of the Soviet Union is causing not only the collapse of economic links, but the disruption of financial ties between the republics. A report from Moldova. Can you tell me, why are you not paying out money which is wired here from other republics? On the basis of rule number 353, because of the lack of cash reserves in the banks, we are paying wired money only, which is alimony and tax payments. Can you tell me, do you have many clients who should receive money coming from other areas? Yes. Are they concerned? Yes, of course. They are going to the ministries to complain. Some people are given permission, some are not, but there are no results yet. No. The social, political, economic, and criminal situation in Abkhazia is reaching critical levels, beyond which chaos usually comes. We can say today that hunger is gradually spreading through the Republic. Supporters of Georgian opposition groups are undertaking acts of destruction on the main railways leading here from the Russian Federation and other areas of the CIS, along which food and fuel for automobile and air transportation usually comes. The deputies of the Abkhazian Supreme Soviet were forced to begin their session today with the issue of providing bread to the population. Bread reserves are sufficient only for 2 days. They also are trying to resolve issues concerning residents who are falling victim to theft and violence here. They adopted a decree according to which from March 2nd there will be a regime of special civil behavior here. From 11 p.m. to 6 a.m. it will be illegal to be on the streets or to move vehicles. The idea arose to create a union between the Georgian Provisional Government and the leaders of the former governing bloc, Free Georgia. The government is trying to destabilize the situation in Abkhazia in order to introduce a state of emergency under the authority of the Georgian Provisional Government. These pictures were taken in South Ossetia a year ago, but they remain valid today. Nothing has changed there, except the fact that the blockade on food deliveries to Tskhinvali were overcome in those days by accompaniment from interior troops. Food shipments have halted entirely today. This is the only road through to the outside world, the Trans-Caucasian Highway. It's been closed for 2 weeks by large avalanches. There are reports that violence is escalating in South Ossetia again today. For the first time since the new leadership took power in Georgia, there was mass shooting from Georgian villages by zenith mortars and powerful automatic machine guns. A 19-year-old was killed, 3 children were wounded. How is this consistent with the declarations of the Georgian government on the need for negotiations, especially since the Supreme Soviet of South Ossetia has expressed its belief that it is on the side of the provisional government in its struggle against Nazism, and although it is not yet elected by the people, we agree to negotiations with them. It's perhaps that the official organs are acting on their own, and the armed Georgian units around Tskhinvali are pursuing their own policy. Today, the work of the Supreme Soviet of North Ossetia began its work. The deputies appealed to the Chamber of Nationalities of the Russian Supreme Soviet with a request to consider a draft law on restoring the rights of forcefully deported peoples. This is the news. In Moscow, the meeting of the workers of the Russian Ministry of Security is underway under the title Counterintelligence in Modern Conditions. This is the first time this issue has been discussed openly. What, in your opinion, is fundamentally new in this work of the special services? In the first place, there is a new political role for the special services. They will not be the tool of any party, but will act in the name of the government and in the interests of the state, in the interests of the defense of rights and liberties of the individual. That's the first. The second, the activity of the special services will not not be based on administrative regulations as it always was, but based on the laws of the Russian Federation. Therefore, all of the speakers at the meeting today asked the representatives of the Russian government and Supreme Soviet to accelerate the adoption of laws. Third, the work of the special services will be under the control of the Supreme Soviet, the President, and the government, under a specially created commission of parliamentarians. And number four, I would like to say that the organs of security will work openly, but not so as to be to the detriment of Russian security. This is an axiom of any state. The World at this hour, a video chronicle of international events by Yevgeny Blokhin. Today in Washington, the Arab-Israeli peace negotiations continued. Israeli representatives proposed a plan of action to solve the main problem, the self-determination of Palestinians in occupied